Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining AARP Virginia tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about downsizing and decluttering. You can't take it with you. My name is Michelle Evans Oliver, and I am a community ambassador with AARP Virginia State Office. We have over 200 volunteers who share their time and talent by helping AARP serve the community and connect with great community organizations. We hope that you enjoy tonight's session and pick up a few tips for downsizing and decluttering. Now, if you joined us a little bit earlier, then you didn't hear Janaea tell us to put information in the chat. So if you could, if you look down at the bottom, you'll see the chat feature. And if you make sure you put everyone so that everyone can see where you're from and how you've heard about us today. So 'tis the season for spring cleaning. I have even started cleaning out my garage a bit. I can't believe it. I've even gone in the backyard and started cleaning up so that I can start gardening. It is so important to try to declutter every area of your home when you can and on a routine basis, so you're not overwhelmed with a lot of old stuff collecting dust. So get ready, sit back, grab your pencil and your paper, and we are going to start downsizing and decluttering. Again, thank you for your interest and taking your time to spend with us today. I'm going to turn this over to Janaea Luck with AARP Virginia.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you everyone for making the time this evening and joining us. And again, we are very, very happy to have you join us on Zoom, and hopefully we will be able to present this content at a local community center or activity center or faith-based institution. We are very excited to keep this conversation going. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A. That's right next to the chat. The chat feature can be like our chatter group and for us to make comments. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to try to make it interactive. So I'm going to ask you to put some things in the chat. But if you have a specific question, please put it in the Q&A. That's the little icon right next to chat. So then I can see it and I won't have to scroll through the entire long list of the chat session. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share with you. And again, we encourage you, if you're interested in being a volunteer with AARP Virginia, just let us know. I'll be sure to put my email address at the end of the session. So let's get started. I am sure you may know who this familiar face or statue is, and we'll talk a little bit more about him a little bit later in the program, but keep him in mind, okay? Just to quickly review our agenda. So we are going to present some content. We're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. And hopefully we'll have a few laughs along the way. And most importantly, I want to make sure you know that we're going to keep this simple and provide practical tips, 10 tips that hopefully each one of us can get started tonight. That's right, we can get started tonight. And it will help us also gain a little bit more understanding about the importance and significance some individuals may have with their things. This demographic chart will just help us understand that 2011, there has been a new wave, a huge wave of increase with individuals. Actually, over 10,000 people have been turning 65 years of age every day. 10,000 people turning 65 every day. And that started in 2011. And over the next 20 years, 15% of America will be over 65. Now, you might say, what does that have to do with anything with downsizing and decluttering? Glad you thought that. It's because there has been a lot of different research, of different theories, a lot of evaluation of the generations, the various generations, and how they identify their stuff. Older Americans, and this is the only time actually in America that there will be 4 generations living at the same time. Older Americans have an age gap of between about 20 years between themselves and their parents. And the 2 oldest generations, that's the silent generation and the baby boomers, have the most amount of sentimental value towards their things. And just to, again, keep this interactive, if you're interested, please put in the chat if you are a millennial, if you are a baby boomer, if you are a Gen X, or a member of the silent generation, or if in fact you have children of any of these generations. So we have Kay, we have some boomers in the house. All right, good job. Thank you. Gen Xers, we have a couple of Gen Xers. So wonderful. Okay, we have a really great span. Wonderful. The silent generation is here. Proud, loud and proud. Very good. Well, we have, again, a wonderful cross section, another boomer. All right, I think the boomers outweigh everybody in tonight's session. Again, thank you for participating, and I'm going to continue to encourage you to keep on participating throughout this afternoon, this evening session. But again, it's very important to recognize that there are 4 distinct generations that are living right now. And this is a unique time in history. So what does this all mean? Well, again, a lot of experts, and I'm not the one that, pulled all this together, but they have, again, helped us with this content to share that the largest amount of people ever requiring healthcare at a time has been the boomers and their parents. So 2 generations that may need healthcare and may need to downsize their homes to seek assisted living or seek extra care or combine homes just because they are empty nesters now. Many of us have thought, even to downsize because of the economy and to downsize our homes or move in with relatives in order to make some financial sense out of, coming out of the pandemic. So again, it's a very unique time for all of us to take a look at the things that we have in our homes. But most importantly, to really understand that these 2 generations, the boomers and the silent generation, attach pride to their stuff because of the hard work and memories. And also just know that the millennials and Gen Xers are focused on the amount of space that's needed to house things. So the rising cost of healthcare and the rising cost of affordable housing has really impeded upon a lot of those that are part of the younger generation, even having enough space to house and keep all of the things. So again, the number one out of survey after survey and a lot of market research, the number one thing in the focus group data, it always comes back to the number one thing being that people will not leave their home or decide to move in with a relative or another location or another state because they're always worried about their stuff in their homes, housing and keeping a lot of stuff. There was a survey of 1,000 family caregivers. And the thing that was frustrating and really causing them a lot of stress was not caring for their loved one, but the amount of stuff that the loved one actually had. And so Again, family caregivers were interviewed in 2017 to, again, just give us a better sense of the issues related to stuff. So if you have a moment, by show of hands, or if you could put in the chat, anyone who has lived in their homes 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Okay, we have a few hands raised. Anyone, have you lived in your home 50 years? Oh my goodness, we have Judy saying 40 years. Kay, 7. Melissa, 20. So again, a lot of us, we have been in our home. Sharon, 28. 35 years, yes. So a lot of us have probably accumulated a few items if we have not moved within the past 5 years. Oftentimes when you move, you often try to downsize. Most of us don't hire a moving company and just say, pack up everything, including the sock shakers. Hopefully you are taking a look at the items that you want to take to your new home, and you are trying to downsize and declutter some items before you move. Want you to know that this presentation, we're going to try to have some lighthearted discussion, but just to know that we want to emphasize that we have to take responsibility for our own stuff, because no one wants to handle your stuff. No one wants to help you clean it up. And no one really wants to take care of it if you unfortunately pass away. So do all that you can now to downsize and declutter, and to make sure that you provide the things that you want to give to other people. Do it now. So again, we're going to go through this presentation. We're going to try to learn some tips on how to get started. So the first tip is to make sure that we are including everyone in this discussion or this decision. If in fact you have a grandparent living with you, have them and their spouse and all the grandkids, everyone come together to discuss this big move or this opportunity to declutter the attic or declutter the basement or the outdoor shed. Include everyone, because more often than not, some of those things might belong to them. And it takes a team. It takes a team to try to downsize and declutter items in large spaces. Also, it's also important to make sure that you ask for professional help if needed. There are a lot of professionals that do have great businesses in helping to pack and to downsize and declutter. But again, we want to make sure, and I see that we have one question already. She's fine getting rid of stuff, but her husband is having trouble letting go. So again, we're going to try to give you some tips to help pass along and encourage your husband as well. So the first tip is, again, include everyone in the household. So again, if you don't want to be that one person that's nagging or trying to really encourage your spouse, include other family members if possible. Other family members, maybe possibly children, relatives, older relatives, maybe even the close friends or neighbors, church members, who knows? But when you mention that your husband is having a hard time letting go and trying to, make that change, see if there's someone that they respect, to have them come over and have dinner or tea, and see if you can bridge that conversation during that tea time and see if that will help. That's one suggestion. We also want to make sure that we know that if we have a large room, closet, an attic, you are not able to tackle that all in one day. It is very, very important to make sure you know that the best way to clean a room is to really look at it by a 2-foot by 2-foot area. Just look at one corner of that room, 2-foot by 2-foot, and see if you can take 10 minutes every day, 10 minutes a day to just tackle and clean up that 2-foot by 2-foot area. And experts have just shared that if you just keep taking 10 minutes every day, taking a little section or a little area or a corner or a wall, and you take that 10 minutes every day, you can feel accomplished and more I would say, energized to complete the project instead of tackling it all in one day when you're exhausted, you're frustrated, you're probably overwhelmed, dehydrated, you're overworked, and you might give up on entirely. Just give up. Again, just think about it. Imagine and compare this to losing weight. Would you lose 50 pounds in a week? Probably not. Most healthcare professionals will tell you the best way to lose weight is to lose it little by little, right? Try to work at it every day. Take small steps of exercise. Just try your hardest a little bit each day to eat healthier, exercise. So it's the same concept. 10 minutes of trying to clean up little by little, because again, this room did not look like this, did not get like this in one day, and possibly not one week. So take more time to do that. I have heard a few volunteers share that they like to take the 10 minutes in between commercials of television shows, or they may take the 10 minutes in the morning, first thing in the morning, right as they wake up. That's their 10-minute time before they go and have a shower and get their morning cup of tea. But they develop a routine of cleaning their house or decluttering a particular area. And that helps them manage that big project. Next, tip number 3 is to unpack those bags. Now, if you can, put in the chat, when is the best time to unpack bags? If you can put in the chat, when do you think is the best time, the proper way to unpack a bag? I see one person put in the chat. When's the best time? After you get home. Nancy's right. Nancy, you're absolutely right. As soon as you get home, as soon as you come home from vacation, absolutely. You want to make sure that you unpack immediately. I have gotten in the habit that as soon as I drag that suitcase in from vacation, I drag it right to the laundry room and unpack the dirty clothes in the laundry room, sort things that need to go to the dry cleaners, do all of that right in the laundry room that's on the first level. So then I don't have to drag the suitcase anywhere except, to storage, the empty suitcase to storage. Make sure this is a good habit to have with traveling, because sometimes, unfortunately, those of us that may have a lot of things, a lot of clothing, a lot of items, maybe other suitcases, you forget that you did not unpack everything, and you forget that you have that lovely pair of blue flip-flops. And what do? You unfortunately go and you purchase another pair. And so that's how some of us have 3 or 4 or 8 different pair of blue flip-flops, or multiple pair of white pants or yellow pants, because we've never unpacked those suitcases to remember, oh yeah, that's where they are. They're not lost at the dry cleaner. They're still sitting in the suitcase that's in the garage, that's been there for a few months. This also is a good tip for our groceries. Do know that everything we have to make sure we unpack, and everything also has its own place. So when you have your groceries or you go to pick up a few items at the Target, make sure you take time to put everything away in its place. Everything should be organized as it enters your home. So instead of just taking the bags and dropping the groceries, in the living room, dining room, take them to the kitchen, unpack everything, make sure you put all of the snacks and treats in the right area within your kitchen. Also make sure that you take time to put different tools and toiletries in the garage, so that you don't have a stockpile in 4 different locations of your home. So you have certain areas that are specifically identified for certain things. Also, it's very important to know that every item has a home, but also you want to make sure that equal in and equal out. We want to make sure that that it's so important to always take time to sort through items that have been in a garage or a guest bedroom for a long period of time, and take time to figure out how to get rid of it. And the recommendation is a 4-pile sort. And the whole idea with a 4-pile sort, you're going to create 1 pile that is for keeping. You're going to keep it in the home, keep it in that room, keep it in your possession. And you're going to make that keep pile about 10 feet away from where you are sitting or standing. So you mark an X, or you put a box there, or you put, that 10-foot location might even be another room. That's the keep pile. The second pile is the sell pile or donate pile. That's going to be about 2 feet away from you. And then immediately beside you is the trash pile, so that you can easily, quickly say, okay, I'm going to trash this. This doesn't fit. This has holes in it. This has paint spills. I'm going to go ahead and trash these items. But the 4-pile sort has been recommended by many decluttering experts as a good way to get started when you're trying to tackle an area of items that you might not have touched in a while. And it's just really amazing that the human nature is able to click in and to say, you know what, I'm not going to keep walking 10 feet to keep keeping a lot of things. I'm going to start selling or donating because it's a little bit closer to me. Or I'm going to trash it because, again, I'm not going to keep walking to the next room, going 10 feet. I'm going to really take a hard look and see if I can get rid of it. But again, the 4-pile sort is the recommendation on trying to give items away, sell them, or keep them. Next is distributing legacy items. Legacy items are items that you treasure. And I just want to see in the chat, what are some of the legacy items in your house? Any legacy items that you might want to share that you have? Any legacy items? Does anyone have any silver china or some interesting artwork? Okay, we have some furniture. Wow. Furniture, jewelry, more jewelry. Very interesting. Grandmother's china. Wonderful. Wonderful. Very interesting. Well, again, the recommendation is if those legacy items are very important to you and you may or may not have children, grandchildren, or you may have relatives, identify your living legacy now. Who will you pass these items to? And if you can, if you're interested in keeping them in the family, distribute those legacy items now, or introduce those legacy items to that person now, so that you can tell them the stories, the meaning, the significance, where those items are located, how you are preserving those items. You mentioned some china. maybe some jewelry. You might share the proper way to polish certain things or to restore certain things, but start having those conversations now or distribute them now. Wouldn't it be lovely to see if you had a legacy item of jewelry, seeing a young granddaughter wearing that jewelry to prom? That again is passing on your memories, your wishes, but celebrating it with your loved one in photographs that you can take now. The next recommendation is avoid punting. Does anyone know what punting is? And we're not talking about football. Anyone know what punting is? Avoid punting. Procrastination, that's pretty good, yes. Avoid punting is not necessary procrastination. Avoid punting. Let me see. Does anyone know? I'm trying to look through the chat here. Giving it to someone so you don't have to deal with it. Very good, Kay. You are absolutely right. I didn't know this was an actual terminology. Let your heirs or successors deal with it. Tracy, you're absolutely right. Punting is receiving an item, a legacy item that may or may not have much value, but accepting that from a loved one or someone, and then you keep it. You might keep it, you might love it, you might not love it. It might not go with your own decor, but keeping it, but also passing it on to someone that you know they don't have room for or they don't have a desire for, and you are punting it off to them just because it's been in the family. That grandfather clock is very large, very heavy, and it's very loud. And you acquired that from that grandfather. And so you're going to give it on to your son. Again, avoid punting. If you know how you felt when you received it, don't pass it or pass on those feelings because more often than not, that next generation may not want the same item. It's also very important to make sure you find places that will accept your donations. And so always make sure that you take time to donate, donate, donate. And I believe someone has already put it in the chat that there are many organizations, different nonprofits, different foundations that take items, especially items from World War II veterans. But also there are many places that will receive furniture or will be interested in restoring the furniture. If you are in the Richmond area, Diversity Thrift in Richmond restores and works to restore certain items and helps to help people who are, in need of an extra bit of support. Also, there may be items that you can donate to help technology for our troops or service members. There are many Catholic charities all throughout the country that will receive furniture or, suits, Dress for Success, or different shelters that are helping individuals, get back into the workforce, might be interested in some suits. So again, try to avoid, looking at always reselling, because when you consign or resell your items, oftentimes you might get motivated by the money, well, they didn't give me a whole lot and I know I paid XYZ. Yes, don't let that discourage you. Let the good feeling of donating it and helping someone who's fallen on harder times be that reward. Oftentimes it's the smile or the thought of knowing that you've helped a fellow American. That's the priceless opportunity of providing support. Itemize your donations. Absolutely, Nancy. Thank you for the tax reminder. Itemize your donations. Always get a receipt. Also ask for a value. If you're donating a large car or large rooms of furniture, things like that, the organizations should provide you a letter to support that donation so that you can use it for tax purposes. Very good. Thank you for all of the recommendations. Now, we have closets. I'm sure some of our closets look like this, but I want to point out, far to the left, this is a photo that was shared by one of our volunteers. Further to the left, the pants are a size 42. In the middle, they're a size 36. To the far end of the right, they're a size 28, she said. 28, he said. And all of these sizes have been in this closet, and there's another closet with the correct size of what they wear now. We have to be realistic with our clothing. If we have closets that have 4 or 5 sizes in it, and we might have a closet that has the correct size in it, we need to have a stern look at that closet with 4 or 5 sizes. Again, take a hard look at those closets and the sizes and the styles that are there. Yes, I know many of us will say, oh, the style is going to come back. It might come back, but are you going to be able to fit into it? And if you are able to fit into it, are you really going to wear it and enjoy it as much as you think you might? And if so, sure, keep it. But you have to keep that mindset. What comes in the house has to come out. Equal in, equal out. So if you're going to keep a lot of things, that means you can't bring in a lot of newer clothing items, all right? You've got to thin down the closets because, again, they're not getting bigger just because items are on sale. The closet's not getting bigger. The house is not getting bigger. The sales will continue. So do know you might be creating more of a decluttering nightmare in the future. This goes for food too. We want to make sure you are not keeping expired food in your cabinets. Take the time every month, every season to declutter the pantry, downsize the cabinets, sort out the cabinets so that you don't have a lot of canned foods or spices. How many of us have actually taken a look at the expiration date on some of our spices? Yes, there are expiration dates on a lot of food items that we need to take a closer look at. And if you don't see the expiration date, that means you need to get rid of it. Yes, you should go ahead and get rid of it. It's better to be safer than sorry. And then we're going to get to paring down paper. That's the biggest concern for many family caregivers is helping and going to take care of a loved one and seeing that there are stacks upon stacks upon stacks of unopened mail or mail that has a lot of bills or financial information. You have to shred those items. Be sure to shred those items with a shredder. Some of us may live in rural areas where you can burn items in your, fire pit. But again, it's so important to not allow paper to stack up and collect dust, and also to be a risk for identity theft. April is Fraud Prevention Month. That's another very important time for us at AARP. We just launched today our Veterans Fraud Watch Center. So we partnered with the Postal Service on Operation Protect Veterans. And again, it's so important to know that, unfortunately, a lot of our veterans and service members have a lot of paperwork that they are not certain if they should keep or should throw away or they should sort out. A lot of items may be stored in trunks, but it's so important to make sure that you preserve those items, you scan those items in electronically, or you dispose of them. Unfortunately, a lot of our veterans are being targeted by criminals. A lot of con artists are really taking a lot of effort to try to scam and to really do harm to those who have served our country, and it's so unfortunate. So let's do our own part to make sure that if we have veterans in our family, we help them. We share with them. It's so important, yes, for them to keep paperwork, but sometimes the Veteran Services VA will send duplicate copies of things or send a lot of copies of medical records and things. Make sure you shred older documents, especially bills. Also, it's important to know that our photographs are in need of some organization too. Some of us may have photographs that are in boxes. We may have scrapbooked a few photographs, or we might have photographs still in the folders that they came from in the store. Here's one here for me. We have to take time to make sure that we put them in its proper place. If in fact we need to preserve them in certain photo albums to protect them, or if you don't have time to do photo albums, put them in a Ziploc bag. A Ziploc bag, if they're all from the same trip or the same family or the same wedding or the same vacation, put them all in the Ziploc bag because that can preserve them from moisture. And that's what's most important. If you are the heir and you've received a lot of older photographs, it's so important to make sure that you do your part to preserve them. But also, if you have knowledge of who's in the picture, you write it down. So you just slip a sticky note or a sheet of paper in that Ziploc bag and you write down who's in the photograph, so that if in fact anything happens to you and someone comes into the home and they see all these bags or all these photo albums of photographs, they actually know who the people are. Again, it's so important to make sure you're passing on traditions and living legacies for other individuals in your family, but also that you're not hoarding or taking on other people's photographs and you have no idea who these people are. If you don't know who they are and you think they're pretty old, find the local museum to see if they're interested in keeping them. They may be interested in preserving them for you. Again, it's so important to make sure that you take time to evaluate these historical items, because in conclusion, bottom line, when we leave this earth, we can't take it with us. And again, remember the picture I first started out with, King Tut? Well, the picture to the left, that's his actual tomb. He tried to take it with him. And there it sits. It sits, it's collecting dust just like that picture off to the right of the garage. You can't take it with you. So enjoy it now while you're here and while you can, and make sure that you take time to give the memories, the knowledge, and the information to your loved ones when you're passing on legacy items. And you're going to avoid punting that old cuckoo clock or that heavy, heavy settee that you received many, many, many years ago. And you weren't really thrilled about the decor. So don't punt it on to another younger person in your family, if in fact they're not interested in that type of antique. So that concludes all of the 10 questions. Any questions that you might have, please just put them in the chat. I can take the PowerPoint down and I can try to see the chat a little bit better. I'm going to stop share and let's see. We have a thank you for joining us. Thank you. We appreciate your time and I appreciate your participation in helping me with this wonderful small gathering. I love small groups, great ideas. And guess what, everyone, I'm going to put in the chat, we have a book and I'm going to put in the chat the PDF file of the book. And what I'm also going to do is everyone that registered tonight, I have your email address. I'm going to also email a copy. It's a PDF file of the copy of the book that we will hopefully get you inspired to continue to share with someone else. So again, do know that we're here to support good information, good sharing, and a lot of our community conversations are going to continue virtually. But we also want you to know that we are very eager to present to any women's group or church group or Rotary Club. We have some wonderful volunteers like Michelle that will go out in the community and be able to present the same workshop in a way that will have your church group and your women's group very entertained. And it works a lot better in person because you're able to have the opportunity to share and do work exercises as a table or a table group and have that interactivity. So again, thank you for joining. And thank you for the opportunity and sharing. I'm also going to put in here our Speakers Bureau flyer so that you can see some of the other topics that we have. And